computer. All right, so I want to start today's session. Today's a reincarnation session, and today is Saturday, August 14th, 2021. But before we do the reincarnation material, I just wanted to do a quick open book quiz with you guys. So maybe you've already written down your answers, that's okay. But it's just a quick review of a few principles that we've talked about in sessions 1 and 2. Margot, you're rattling around a lot there, just a heads up. If you could just mute a little bit. So what is time? What is time? Anybody want to volunteer? What's the definition of time? Does anybody remember? Just speak
a measure of change.
Measurement of change. Yes, time is a measurement of change. And so does time exist on the other side? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. So how do you know that? What do you base that on?
Basically, it's a perception or your experience of time. Like on the other side, it's spirit light time. Maybe we don't know how fast it is, but it's like based on their experience. Like they can be around the world in a second or whatever, and we can't be around the world in a second.
Right. So you're
Yes.
describing the subjectivity of it. But how do we know that time exists if time is a measurement of change, which is correct? What you said, Shannon, is that's correct definition of time, which a lot of people don't understand properly. Time is simply a measurement of change. How do we know that time exists on the other side?
I guess because I'm not sure about this, but I guess because things change.
Yeah, that's it. It's not that complicated. Exactly right. Things change on the other side. So if change exists, then time, which is a measurement of change, must also exist, because time is just, as you said, a measurement of this thing called change. So does change exist on the other side? Yeah. How could mediums be? Who are they talking to? I mean, whatever. It's like, how do we know that change exists on the other side? Anybody want to volunteer? What's a fundamental element that tells us that change exists? Individuality, right? Individuality exists. There are individual minds. People who have dead loved ones, and my heart goes out to you, and some of you are in this class, and my heart really goes out to you. Dead loved ones, parents who just died recently, spouses, and God forbid, children who've died. Whether it's recent or whether it's in the distant past, it does not matter when. These scars we carry around with us for more than one lifetime. It's a long time, and we don't forget, in other words, but we can move on and live our lives from the experience. But the point is that we can communicate with them. And we'll talk more about that in the 5th session of our series. They're individuals. Their individuality still exists. Otherwise, how can you communicate with them? That's the evidence for change existing on the other side. The fact that people can see a being when they have an NDE, a near-death experience, which we talked about last session. If you don't know what that is, watch session 2, the recording. But the mere fact that somebody can have an NDE and is factual evidence that change exists on the other side, and therefore time exists, because time is just a measurement of change. Great, good. Where is the other side? Anybody? Where is it? We talk about the other side, the afterlife. Where is it?
Right next to us.
Right next to us. It's right here. It's just basically vibrating at a different frequency, so we can't see it. Just like dogs can hear, who knows what they can hear. They can hear a lot of stuff that we can hear. You ever have a dog whistle, you blow on it, Do you hear anything? No. You're driving the dogs nuts. They can hear it. Same thing with all of our senses. So you're right. It's right here. Are there levels on the other side? You hear this a lot. I don't know if we talked about that in our previous session, but I thought I'd bring it up now. Are there levels on the other side?
I think so, but I don't think we talked about it.
Well, so what do you mean by levels?
Like, that's the question. But like levels of different things. Like, okay, this is my thought. What I'm thinking of right now is different dimensions. I don't know. This is different dimensions. I don't know what you mean by levels, really.
Yeah, exactly. So here's what I hear out there. So what you said, I would not call levels, Shannon. I just call it what you called it. And does that exist on the other side? Yeah. But levels, what I mean by what I've meant by this question, and I've heard this from many, many, many spiritual teachers, they talk about, well, you graduate from this level and then you have to do this and this, and they don't know what you're going to do, but some of them come up with some crazy ideas about what you got to do. And then you graduate to another level. That's silliness. Okay. Now, it's silliness in terms of structure, but it's not silliness in terms of possible existence on the other side. Just like on this side, are there levels on Earth that you have to graduate to on Earth? Structurally, by the fact that you live on Earth, do you have to structurally graduate? No. But could somebody say there are levels on Earth? Yeah. Socioeconomic, are you in prison or not in prison? Some people could view that as a level. How much money you have, as I said, what kind of status you have, what's your job title? A lot of people on Earth would consider those levels. But are those structural? No. So can people have titles on the other side? Yeah. Do you have to listen to those titles? No. You have free will. That's the thing. There's no graduation of stuff like people talk about, like you got to graduate from this level to that level. There are 7 levels. There are 5 levels. People come up with these magic numbers. There's none of that, all right? Unless you want there to be that. Just like on Earth, do you want to go to high school? Well, maybe you got to have to go to high school, but you know what I mean. You could choose not to go to high school. I just saw something for 30 seconds last night on TV. I just turned it on and changed the channel. But it was about Anna Nicole Smith. She dropped out of high school at 10th grade. Did they make her go to high school? No, she dropped out. She had the free will. That's what I'm saying. So we could say that we have levels, and I in a sense chose to go to college, and at least there were levels: freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year. All right. But that's not what we're talking about here. People and spiritual teachers, they talk about, no, there's these consciousness levels you have to graduate. It's a bunch of hooey, all right? Does everyone get a life review? Anybody?
Not everyone.
Nope, not everyone. It's a choice. You can get a life review or not. It's really up to you, right? And it's not a punishment thing. We'll talk more about that in the 4th session in 2 weeks. There's no punishment. What is spiritual materialism? So those of you who've read my purple book, you know what I'm talking about, but and feel free. It's like I said, this is an open book. This is the last question I want to ask you today, but it's a really important point. What's spiritual materialism? Anybody? Anybody? Spiritual materialism?
I remember you talking about it, but I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, Harpo has got this memorized if he's not with his plumber right now. Or if John is on. I don't know if John's on. Spiritual materialism. Anybody? No? Widge, you know what this is. You can speak up. You don't have to be silent.
I mean, I think it's, well, I don't know. I'm not certain. So
well, how I use it, spiritual materialism in my book. No? So spiritual materialism is making anything spiritual and a goal, an object of experience. So that's what materialism is. The way I'm defining materialism is I'm not talking about materialism in financial way. I'm talking about it spiritually. But any kind of materialism is making something an object, a goal that you need to have. And it's like making money. That's financial materialism, making lots of money. That's, okay. And now it's not a bad thing unless you make it your sole goal in life and the ends justify the means. In other words, you steal, you rob, you hurt somebody to get their money, whether you hurt them physically, emotionally, or you steal from them. That's financial materialism. Spiritual materialism is rampant. You watch for it. It is widespread. Okay, right? That's the goal. This experience is better than that experience. Anytime you hear somebody say that, that's spiritual materialism. That's an example of spiritual materialism. There's no this experience shows that you're more highly evolved than that. You hear people say that, they're spiritual materialists. It's not somebody to listen to, it's somebody to listen to very carefully. I'm not saying don't listen to anything they say, but it's a red flag. All right. There are no levels, there's no goals spiritually. All right.
How can you break that down into like a simple, I don't know. I'm like I'm not fully, I understand what you're saying, but I don't like, what would be a definition, I guess? I'm curious. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I answered that question because I asked myself that. How can I say this more succinctly?
Okay.
Like 102, page 102. Somebody was their purple books there. Page 102, spiritual materialism. All right.
Okay. Yep.
Look at page 102, and I think I defined it somewhere there.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
All right. So anyway, I don't want to digress into this any further, but that, you can follow up there. All right. Sean, if you could mute everybody now, that'd be awesome. Thank you, everybody. So that's just some refresher stuff on some really great. So now, before I get into the reincarnation experiences stuff, I want to set the stage for you because I want you to also listen to me when I'm going through my past 6,000 years with you through this lens that I'm going to read to you right now. I created this statement a couple days ago. I've never read this before in a previous session. This is the 11th time I'm doing this series, all right? But this is really, really important. And it's a reminder of something that I've said to you before, but I want to say it again in the context of today's session, and just remember it for today's and all the subsequent sessions as well. This is a reminder that it's true that an objective of this series is to reduce fear about death. You guys know I have this foundation, this nonprofit I started, Overcoming the Fear of Death. And I've helped people now 40, soon the United Arab Emirates, UAE, is going to be the 49th country I'm working with. But I see an even more important goal, and that's to teach critical thinking. To show through my 50 years this lifetime and my 6,000 years of memories how I've navigated the range of life experiences and their interpretations, and my analysis and synthesis over those millennia. All right, critical thinking is something that's really vacant. Is that the right word? It's lacking. It's absent in our educational system. Critical thinking. It's really important, especially in the spiritual arena. There's so much conflation and confusion and cross-mixing of ideas that make no logical and no experiential sense with each other. Okay? So back to my statement here. I'm not telling you about these experiences that I have just to tell you about them. I'm not here to wow or gee whiz you. That's a complete and utter waste of everyone's time, in my opinion. I'm here to teach you how to think and assess these types of experiences and to not get emotionally swept up in them so much that you lose or forget your ability to discern and discriminate. To me, refinement of our ability to discern and discriminate while in the midst of these types of experiences is the most important and, quite frankly, least common teaching point a spiritual teacher can offer to their students. It's the most important skill that will serve us all for eternity. All right, so keep that in mind. Everything that I do, that's the underlying reason I do what I do, okay? So let's get into this. Let's talk about reincarnation.